Okay, we finished almost the other Maimer. We'll start the short Maimer. Chayei page Yud Zayin, first column. Okay, the pasuk says, "Vayetzi Yitzchak l'sor basada." Yitzchak went to daven in the field. That's where he met Rivka. Levi is there to explain what this means. In a Yesh Mishnah B'rais. There's Mishnah and there's Braisa. Braisa was left outside of the Mishnah. Braisa, Pirush HaMishnah, and Braisa generally explains the Mishnah. Ki HaMishnah HaKlal. The Mishnah is, like they say, short and sweet. Braisa HaPrat Shel HaMishnah, and the Braisa is the detail of the Mishnah. Ve'im B'chlal Ela Mashe B'frat. And the Klal is only what's in the details. So l'chayda, based on this, Braisa L'mata Min HaMishnah, Braisa is lower than Mishnah because Braisa explains the Mishnah. It was left out of the Mishnah. If it's left out, seemingly it's lower. Shenishtal Chayei it comes down even lower. Aval emes, but the truth is, because it's lower, that means Braisa originates in a higher place than Mishnah. Shabraisa Gavar Yosef, Braisa is even higher than Mishnah. Because it says, like we say in the Chayei, Seif Ma'asav Machshava Tchila. The lower the thing, basically, the higher it comes from. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining that Braisa, even though seemingly it's lower than Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi didn't put it into the Mishnah. Nevertheless, it's higher than Mishnah. Dehine Torah Nishtal Shulamata. Torah comes all the way down here. Even in lies. Torah talks about liars and lying and swindlers and cheaters and low lives. Like it says, this one says, I find it, this one says, I found it. By the way, it's interesting that the Alter Rebbe should say it because the Gemara says it could be they're both true. They're not lying. They thought they picked it up first. But anyway, so the Torah is coming down as a very big descent. You take this Chachmas Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu, and you're lowering it into lines and sheker and all that. Nevertheless, Mikama came. What? Yeah, I'm saying murder is everything. Mikama came, he gavaya, it's even higher. He says, Ma'aso Kamosha Shefredes, like a tube. Hanichnes Rishon Yetzi Achrin. What goes in first comes out last. That means what goes in higher, that's why it says Esav and Yaakov. Yeah, so Yaakov went in first because Esav was born first, the twins. So Esav came out first, but that means Yaakov was deeper in. So Yaakov came out second, but was really first. Like the person, the human, was created at the end of all creations. Yet it's higher than all of them. Everything was created for the person. Therefore, the whole world, it says, there's the pasuk that says that the person is a microcosm of the entire world. Like he says the expression, you have inanimate, plant, animal, and human in the world. You have water in the person, you have hair in the person, you have animalistic things, and you have the human. So you have all the whole world's in the person. The hard is to teach. Everything was created for his purpose. To serve Hashem. Okay, or as the Mishnah says, and the Rambam explains that every action a Jew does affects the entire world. That's what it says. Meaning, Ba'olam haba, in olam haba, tzaddikim yeshim, tzaddikim are sitting, and they're benefiting from the ray of the Shekhinah. He says, Rak b'chinas achorayim. That's only the external level of godliness, like Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, v'reisas achorayim. What can you see until Mashiach comes? You can see the external levels of Gan Eden. You can see. That's a tainul shemasig adam avedasi. The enjoyment that a person gets from his aveda is only a b'chinas achorayim, the external level. But it's impossible for a living person to see godliness. By the way, simply the pasuk means the person cannot see me and live, but it also means lo yarani adam v'chai. Chai represents the Chayei HaKodesh. Adam can't see me, Hashem said, and the Malachim can't see me. About that, the Gilu of Gan Eden is only Ziva Levat, is only a slight ray, which is the external level. It's not the previous, the essential level that you see. It's a ray of the Shekhinah, it's the external level. The action beli tainuk, ubeli seichel. Therefore, when it says sha'achas b'tshuva ma'asim tevim, it means like this: the action has no tainuk. The action is as with no seichel. You're doing an action. The action doesn't demand seichel. The action doesn't demand tainuk. Is better than kol chayelam abba to say ma'asim machshava tchila. In other words, this world that the Eibishter created last, so to speak, is higher than all the levels of Gan Eden. Even Gan Eden Elyon, by the way. It's also only a ray, but it's a higher ray. So therefore he's saying like this. The rule is, the higher the thing, the lower it falls. Right? So therefore, Mishnah and Braisa, the fact that seemingly Braisa is outside of the Mishnah, it's lower, it's, so to speak, the Achodai, the back of the Mishnah. Zel Gamkin in your Mishnah Braisa. Shamishnu Klal, like the Mishnah is a general rule, like it says Dalit Tzitzis Makvis or Sukkah Shigavaya. Okay? The Mishnah says statements. The Braisa explains why, the Braisa explains more details. The Mishnah is the Klal, and the Braisa is in the Prat.
Rabbi, I was told things that written in Braisa.
A what?
We do not follow.
It's not true. Unless if the Gemara says the Braisa is false, but for instance, any Braisa was learned in the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Shir, who are Talmidim of Rabbi. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi compiled Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi had a lot of Talmidim. Two of the main Talmidim were Rabbi and Rabbi Shir. And they, in their Beis Medrash, gathered all the Braisas that Rabbi Yehuda left out of the Mishnah. So Gemara says any Braisa that was not learned in the Beis Medrash of Rabbi and Rabbi Shir is not necessarily authentic. Sometimes the Gemara could say about a Braisa, Bedusahi, it's wrong. Rarely, but the Gemara, but that's not, generally speaking. You know how many halachas we paskin from Braisa? Look on Shulchan Aruch, you see the source, Braisa, because Braisa had the details. Braisa is always right, unless the Gemara says it's a mistake. The Gabi okay. The Yashlim Tzitam, like Tchelis is Demeliyam. And Gabi Sukkah, Leman Yedu, there is Sechem Ad Chofama. In other words, like this, the Mishnah says a sukkah higher than 20 amas is possible. Comes along a Braisa and says why? Because it says Leman Yedu, there is Sechem, you got to know up to 20 amas you see. Higher than 20 amas you don't see. So you're not going to know by a sukkah that's higher than 20 amas. Ava Braisi Prat Levayera Mishnah B'chol Digdukim Upratim. Like sukkahs, a ganvach. Those are acronyms, so what type of sukkahs are possible and so on. She'ein tam ledavar. There's no reason, near the b'chush. So we see openly it's l'mayla me'aseichel. V'hatam, it's above logic. V'zel ein b'chlal elam asher b'frat, meaning she'ein b'mishnah b'chlal. The mishnah, which is the rule, doesn't have any more of the Braisa. Okay? So basically, Mishnah and Braisa, the fact that Braisa seemingly is lower comes from a higher place. He says, Mashal in his Gala Taima, this that the reasons for mitzvahs weren't revealed is because Yait Ki Taima mitzvahs lein his Gala. The reason for mitzvahs were not revealed, La'asad Lavi mitzvah Shem Yizgalu. Okay? That's why it says, Rav Shim and Darish Taima Dekra, the Gemara says, Rav Shim Mayachoi, used to learn the reasons for the psukim. Many halachas, the Gemara says, why does Rav Shimon argue on the other person? Because Rav Shimon learns the reason for the halachas. What Reb Shimon used to teach was like this. The reason of the pasuk, loizeu ikar. That's not the primary thing. In other words, when the Torah says a reason, whether even the reward, it's not the reward, it's not the reason. Leman, it says, you want to know why, what's the reason why you should keep it avayim? Leman, in order, that's the reason, in order that you should live long. It's not the reason much higher. Or any logical mitzvah, when the Torah says don't steal, the reason we think you're not allowed to steal is not the real reason from Hashem. It's a limited intellectual form of understanding. There's a reason higher than the reason. Nimsa, a mitzvah that you don't understand the reason is higher than a mitzvah that you do understand the reason. And this, that you do understand what we think we understand, is only bechinas hachorayim, is only the external level. Because it's self-understood, our brains, believe it or not, are not the God's intellect. So you can have even an agashmistic emotion. You tell a little kid, you have to, it's freezing outside, it's raining, whatever, you tell a kid you have to put on a hat and jacket. Yeah? So the kid thinks it shouldn't be cold. The parents have a deeper reason, shouldn't get sick. Kid doesn't think about sick, he's not that intelligent. Or you have to get good grades on your report card, you should get a present. Yeah? A reward. That's not the reason why you have to get good grades on a report card.
Depends on the reward.
Depends on the reward, yeah. But like it's not like the world thinks that the primary thing of Torah mitzvahs is the heart, that therefore you work because we understand the reason and therefore we, he says, emes. It's not the truth. Truth is not the intellect of mitzvahs, the understanding of mitzvahs, or the enjoyment of mitzvahs. It's maaseh without enjoyment. Like the Tzemach Tzedek told that guy, he said, I have no desire to learn. So I don't know what to do, I have no desire to learn. Tzemach Tzedek said to him, I have a bigger problem than you, I do want to learn. And therefore when I learn, it's enjoyment, it's not what it's all about. It's all about when you don't enjoy it, that's when you do it. That's an action. When you don't, dedication, devotion, is not when I enjoy something and I do it. You enjoy it, you do it. What's dedication, devotion? When you hate doing it and you do it anyway because this needs to be done. That's the... B'simcha. And he says, what's the union of the heart, the feelings, and the tainug and all that? It's only siyur b'chinas Godfrey. It's only wings to make it fly up. It's external. The main thing is we need to do it. Now, the Rabbi is explaining now why Bryce is greater than Mishnah. So he's explaining now that even in the mitzvahs we do, it's not the reason. It's not the reason for the mitzvah. Because whatever reason we think we understand is not that. It's much deeper than that. So he says like this. V'hinei, Mishnah is called Ir, and Bryce is called Sada. Okay? Why is Bryce called Sada? Because Bryce, the word of Bryce, why is he called Bryce? Bryce comes from the word bar, which means outside. Sholashim bar chutz le'ir. Okay? So you have Mishnah is the city, primary, and then you have the field, which is secondary. So seemingly, the city is more important than the field. Right? So l'chayra, city is more important than the field. But the problem is, where's the sustenance coming from? The person is only able to live because of the field. In the city you don't grow things. You didn't grow things in the field. But who gives life to that? Okay? So what gives life? Yeah, granted, the city people are higher than the farmers. They're more sophisticated, supposedly. But the bottom line is, who makes them survive? The farmers make the city people survive. The same thing. What gives life to the Mishnah, the Braisa? How to do it. Okay? Because there's a passage that says, Hatanoye Mavle Ha'elam. And the Gemara says, in a few places, it refers to people that paskin from a Mishnah. People that paskin from a Mishnah destroy the world. That's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says this. Why? Shemerim mitecha Mishnah. They paskin from a Mishnah. A Mishnah, you don't know the reasoning, you don't know the details, you just know the general Mishnah, the general concept. How do you in the world can you paskin without knowing every detail of the question and the answer? Right? You can't even paskin from a clear din shchunorchi necessarily. Because there's a million details. So Braisa actually is what survived, the field is surviving the city. The Braisa is giving life to the Mishnah. Because from the Braisa you can understand better the halach of the Mishnah. And he says, that's what it says, Vayetze Yitzchak L'suach Basada. That was the beginning of the Maimer. Yitzchak went out into the field to daven mincha, right? And that's when, he came down. According to the Medrash, he came head down from Gan Eden. That's why she was wondering, Rivka, what's going on? She see a guy falling from the sky, head down, head first. And he was coming back from Gan Eden. L'suach basada. What does it mean, l'suach basada? Suach is sicha, talking. Lashon diba v'sicha. Lashon schia lamata. And it also means schia lamata milashon v'sachrei ma'anash. Also to lower down, or like it says, yeferish ha'seichel lisches, which all means besada hubar. So it means like this. Yitzchak is lowering himself. Speech b'chlal lowers the person. You speak an intellectual concept. The speech is limiting the intellectual concept. If you have a feeling, a midah, that speech limits the feeling. That's why the Rebbe Rashab wrote a maimer and he said that's a Chassidus kiss. Because even a kiss limits it, the amount of love that you're displaying through a kiss or talking or hugging or whatever it is, it's all limited. It's much more than that. Yitzchak went to the level of Dibur, which is lowering himself, and where did he go? Basada hubar. It's the outside level. Because that outside level in the Sada is what survives the year. So Yitzchak went out he went out from the city to daven in the field. And he says, V'lifneis erev. Why did he go lifneis erev? Means before the evening. Lifneis erev v'acheshech. Okay? Because Yitzchak wanted to be mamshich, this level of kedusha, into the field, which is a level of braisa, which is a level of cheshech, of darkness, lifneis erev. And he says, Torah comes into cheshech. Not only does it talk about liars and swindlers and murderers and all that stuff, but Machashakim Meshivani is a Talmud Bavli. The pasuk says in Eicha, but Machashakim Meshivani, you settled me in darkness. The Gemara says that refers to Talmud Bavli versus Talmud Yerushalmi. You find expressions in the Gemara. There was always competition between Eretz Yisrael and Bavel. Okay? Now really, Mitzin Torah. really it comes from Yerushalayim, is Kimitzin Teitei Seder. Yerushalmi should really be the greater level of Torah, and it was the greater level of Torah. There's stories in the Gemara, whatever, that somebody said something in Babel, and they said it over to Rabbi Yirmiyah and Eretz Yisrael, and he said, that's why you guys are stupid, you're machshakim and shivani, you guys are bavli, you're in darkness, you don't know what you're talking about, and whatever. They knocked them, they used to knock each other. But when Bavli had a Yerushalayim, they asked to send it to Eretz Yisrael to get a psak. Okay? Nevertheless, Bavli is machshakim and shivani, the Gemara says to Talmud Bavli. Why? Because if you look, we learned many times, look at Yerushalmi. A set of Yerushalmi is this big. Usually it's 6 volumes. With all the Masechtas that there is Yerushalmi on, there's six volumes. Okay? Bavli is 20 volumes. Much more. Why? Because you learn Yerushalmi, the people that learn Daf Hayom of Yerushalmi every day, but Yerushalmi is a bunch of statements. There's no debates, there's no arguments, there's no fighting, there's no, So Yerushalmi is a bunch of clear-cut halacha. Bavli, fighting, questions, answered, you don't, sometimes very sharp, by the way, arguing against one another. So we know, Chassidus and Kabbalah explained, that any question is klipa. Any question is klipa. There's a famous expression that brings down the Yemim. Farvos, why is klipa? What do you mean why? Any question is a helen v'hester. That means you don't understand it and you're asking a question. So Bavli, which is a whole bunch of questions and answers and statements and this, the whole pulpul, so to speak, that's when you get the ultimate halacha. Therefore, when somebody, it says, Dvar Havai Dvar Hashem Yishlaim Zeh Dvar Halacha. Because in order to paskin a shaila, you have to really go into every detail of the whole thing to be able to paskin a shaila. So Bavli, the halacha is like Bavli. That's why the halacha is like Bavli. Whenever there's an argument Bavli and Yerushalmi, the halacha is like Bavli. Because it says B'machshakim Shivani, darkness. So he says like this. Dehine atayr and nishtalsha b'cheshach. Tayr can down like in cheshach, like it says, b'machshakim Shivani is a Talmud Bavli shenishtalsha lemata afilu b'sheket. Torah comes even into, like we said, lies, swindlers, murderers, all that. But lama hukach, why taka does Torah come into all these low things? He said, lifnei erev, v'acheshach. Lifnei erev means when as evening is turning. Pniya means to turn, poneh, right? Lifnei erev here, the Alter Rebbe is defining to transform the erev into the or.
One should not question or comment to understand the...
One second. Lifnei erev acheshe vayihi or k'mayim al eis erev yihi or. Like the expression is, in the night will be or. Okay? Now, what's the Alter Rebbe saying over here? The whole purpose, like it says in Chassidus all over the place, vayihi erev vayibeika yom echad. Yeah? Why did Hashem Taka make Erev first? You could do like the secular system. Day and then night. Except by Kotchim. Only by Kotchim. Laila Helech Acharayim. The night followed the day. Normally in Yiddishkeit, besides Kotchim, the night precedes the day. Why did they wish to make it like that? So it says in Chassidus, Vayi Erev, Vayi Beiker, the purpose is to make the Erev into Baker, and then you have Yom Echad, then you have the level of the revelation of Achtus Havaya, that even Klipa is a Kedusha. The purpose, Lifnei Erev, to transform the evening, the darkness, into Or. What do you say now?
One should not question or comment to understand the concept.
Of course you're supposed to ask, then you'll understand it better. Yeah, but only through the Helen Vehester, through the Yerida, do you get the Aliyah. No, by the way, it depends how you question. If you question, therefore it doesn't make sense, if I'm not doing it, that's completely evil. If it's, in other words, what is your premise? That Torah is, no, people, Fruma people also don't, listen. There's a premise that Jew needs to have is, Torah is 100% true. Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. Because people come along, even from people, science said differently. So therefore I'm questioning Torah. If they're smart enough, they don't say it. If they're stupid enough, they even say it. How could Torah be right? Science says differently. Yeah? That's apicursis, if you think about it. It means Torah is not real. Torah is not emes. So, one second. If the questioning is as follows, there's a premise. Torah is 100% right. The Rebbe said many times, printed and orally, something proven in science, proven, can never contradict Torah. Torah is emes. That's a given. Now, science also says something proven, so you have to reconcile these two things. If science has a theory by definition means it's not proven. That means there's no proof that it's emes, right? So if a person's premise is a frumiyid, the Torah is for sure right. That's a problem over there. We have to figure that one out. But Torah is right. By frumid people, they don't have that, by the way. Be serious. No, the science says the world is billions, millions, zillions, trillions, whatever years old. And by the way, they argue 10 million, 20 million. I mean, what's the 20 million big deal? I mean, it's a close argument, you know. The question, what is the premise when you ask a question?
People who claim that don't know Torah and don't know science.
Correct. But the question is, that question though is klipa. Very bad klipa. If the premise is, it's true. I told you many times, how old was I then? Probably still in Chicago. I was probably 11 years old. We had a Rabbi in Chicago. We were learning Gemara with him. He was a Misnagid, but I wasn't in the Chabad school there. There wasn't at that time. So we're learning Gemara, and you know, kids would say, Rabbi, the Gemara doesn't make sense. You know, kids, you know. You say, Rabbi, the Gemara doesn't. Anytime we said that, he threw us out of the room. For 5 seconds. Get out. I still remember it. So it's a while ago. He called us back in. He said, let me tell you something. The Gemara makes sense. You don't. He said, don't ever say the Gemara doesn't make sense. Because you don't understand it doesn't mean the Gemara doesn't make sense. You don't make sense. Think about it. It's such a true statement. Okay? The question is how you ask the question.
You ask not to question. You ask the question not to question Torah.
To question, not the authenticity of Torah, not the emes of Torah. But I want to understand, I'm trying to understand in my stupid head. Then you can ask a question. But then you question the Talmud HaMachkim es Rabbi, the Talmud, the Gemara says, that makes his Rebbe smarter by asking those questions. So he has to go deeper into it to figure it out. Yeah, that's good. But again, what is the premise? That the Gemara is wrong, or the halacha is wrong, or the halacha doesn't make sense? Or, of course that's right, but I'm trying to understand it. There's two different worlds. Okay? And Fruma people will tell you this, but how can Torah say this? Science says differently. No. That means what is holier by you? Science is holier than Torah. You're questioning Torah, not questioning science. It's like, we said this many times, like anyway. There's two ways of asking a shayla. Come to Rav, ask a shayla. One way of asking a shayla is, tell me what Torah says. I want to do what Torah says. Yes or no. Okay? Another way of asking a shayla is, I want to do it. Show me that the book says I could do it. By the way, that's or asked very often like that. The same thing, Chassidim would write into the Rebbe. Rebbe, I want to do something, tell me I can do it. Or your brother, a real chassid is, Rebbe, tell me what I should do, yes or no. Whatever you say, that's it. Not that I want to do it, tell me that I could do it. dial a heter, you know.
Yes, sir.